You
Hi, I'm Jim Plowden, and I wasn't going to speak tonight. I'm on Stoner Avenue over in Mar Vista, and the only reason I'm up is I just want to perhaps a rebuttal with the young lady, I think she left, that spoke about the car emissions and so forth. And so I'll, Dr. Fine, I'll address you on this one about your study and where you placed your sensors. Marty, you remember at the meeting in Santa Monica, we had one speaker that came in. Now, if you go home, if you have a house with a garage that adjoins your house, you'll find that the building code requires that the floor in the garage be about 6 inches lower than your house. Now, why is that? Dr. Fine, do you know why that is?
No.
Because the fuel fumes will stay lower in the garage and will not creep into the house. Because, as I understand it, and I'm not a scientist, but as I understand it, the fumes from your car are heavier than the air we breathe, so they tend to sink. Now, we had one speaker at Santa Monica that said at the end of the runway there at Bundy, it drops off sharply. And what he told us at that meeting was that the air currents cause the fumes to fall down to Bundy, or Centinela, which I guess would be Centinela there, where National and Centinela come together, that the fumes tend to fall. And what happens there is they tend to swirl around this way. Because of the weight of the fumes, they will fall and cause a swirling action at the end of the runway there on the west side of the runway. You recall that, Marty? Remember he had a graphic of that. So,
you know, the fumes do drop down into the cul-de-sacs there, and they carried by the winds, even past the 405 freeway.
But he said there was like a swirling action there at National and Centinela, where those fumes were dropping. So what I would question whether if you had a sensor on one side of Centinela and one on the other side, if you had that swirling action, wouldn't that tend to distort the findings of those sensors on one side of the street and the other?
It's possible if there's that kind of mixing that the differences we were looking for would be confounded by that type of mixing. There's actually, I mean, I wasn't aware of that building code. Just thinking scientifically about that, I think there's two kinds of emissions that come off of vehicles. One is called kind of fugitive or evaporative emissions that would just come out of the gas tank or some of the engine components, and that would probably come out when it was cold, and that stuff can evaporate, and then maybe at that point some of those components would be heavier than air. But when it comes out of the tailpipe, it is very warm, and at that point it probably doesn't sink. It probably goes up. But even more important than whether it rises is if it's being ejected from a tailpipe. There is a lot of mixing there. It's a turbulent process, and you would get a lot of mixing, at least in that first, 10,
again,
20
this
feet.
is one of the scientists that was at Santa Monica at the city council meeting that told us this about the swirling action at the end of the...
Yeah, I mean, we were really located...
I just wanted to bring that up in rebuttal against what that young lady was saying about the car emissions and everything, because you are mixing those emissions at the end of the runway.
That's a good point, Jim. Thank you.
Okay.
I like it.
Thank you, Marty. That's my daughter and her girlfriend.
Right, that's his daughter up there.
Marty, real quick, if I may, I know it's getting late. I didn't chime in.
I just want to add something really briefly, just one comment.
She can't hear me. That's okay. Go ahead.
And what I'd like to say is I'm wondering why can't we put a measure on the ballot for the residents of these communities to go ahead and vote for closing the Santa Monica airport? Why can't we vote for it?
Well,
what do you think about that?
They got all our votes. I do want to thank everybody for coming out and sticking through this, and certainly thank Councilman Rosendorfer's continued efforts to move this forward, and it is moving forward. You can be assured of that. It's moved forward tremendously, and I'm optimistic that we will be able to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. Just remember that it's most important what we do in between the meetings, so stay informed and sign up to be on Concerned Residents Against Airport Pollution contact list. Thank you again.
Okay, and the final comment, if you live in Mar Vista, we're having a day of service, and this Saturday, the 26th, the kickoff will be the Mar Vista Park and Recreation Center on Woodbine. If you're interested in spending a half a day working in the community, you should come to that event. I want to thank the community for being here in such large numbers and for staying as long as you have. I want to thank you for your comments and your questions. I want to thank the panel of experts who have been working with us for the last couple of years, who are doing the best they can under the restraints that they have had. I want to thank Channel 35, and I especially want to thank all the cable viewers out there for sharing their time with us. God bless you, and good night.